Namaskar from Deshsanchar Diplomatic Eye. I am Mitra Bandhu Poudel. Welcome to the new episode. I will be presenting the second part of the Nepal-India relations. This program's objective is to present an analytical point of view on a topic pertaining to diplomacy, foreign policy and international relations. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin the 21st episode of Diplomatic Eye entitled Nepal-India Relations, Manifestations and Expectations. Part 2. I briefly touched on the head of state and diplomats' role in Nepal-India relations in the previous episode, where I presented two instances. In this episode, a few more cases that are based on information extracted from books authored by Indian diplomats are examined and explained. This might not be in a chronological order, but a few powerful people like Pranab Mukherjee, Syam Saran, Ranjit Ray and S.T. Muni should closely be watched. They have made accusations and laid blame on politicians and other people, but they have also positioned themselves at the forefront of any opportunity for political or diplomatic gain. Let's begin with Gujral and neighborhood policy. From April 1997 to May 1998, Inder Kumar Gujral served as India's 12th Prime Minister. During his tenure as the S.D. Devegowda government's Union Minister of External Affairs, I.K. Gujral is renowned for having established the Gujral Doctrine. It's seen as a turning point in Indian foreign policy. What is Gujral Doctrine? The Gujral Doctrine is founded on the idea that India was already a big actor in Southeast Asia due to its size and population, and that it could further solidify its status by behaving non-domineering towards its smaller nations. Gujral Doctrine consists of 5 principles which include in good faith and trust, India extends its hospitality to its neighbors, including Bangladesh, Bhutan, the Maldives, Nepal and Sri Lanka, without expecting anything in reciprocity. Second, no nation in South Asia should permit another nation's interest to be undermined by the use of its territory. Third, no nation should meddle in the domestic affairs of another. Fourth, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all South Asian nations must be respected. And the last one is all of their disagreements ought to be resolved by amicable bilateral talks. As stated by Manoj Joshi in the India Today as of June 6, 1997, the directives Gujral gave his officials can be interpreted as evidence of his seriousness about fortifying ties with Nepal. These included the establishment of a transit route for trade between Bangladesh and Nepal, prompt implementation of the Mahakali River Treaty, a new Indian consulate at Birganj, meeting of a high-level task force at least every 3 months, and a meeting of the Technical Committee on Boundary Matters with a month. In the course of discussions with the Nepali team, which was led by Prime Minister Lokendra Bahadur Chand, Gujral suggested that the foreign secretaries of both nations examine the 1950 treaty that governs their government-to-government relations and assesses its alignment with contemporary concerns. Under Gujral's leadership, India had consented to give Nepal a route access to the Chicken's Neck to Bangladesh on experimental basis. India committed to improving connectivity, therefore, this was a kind gesture toward Nepal. But Gujral, quoted by S.T. Muni in his most recent book, Dabbling in Diplomacy, exposed that the guarantee of non-reciprocity in bilateral relations did not protect India's security interests. According to Gujral, India rejected a draft of the amended 1950 treaty because they thought it disregarded India's security concerns, mentioned by S.T. Muni in his book. Regretfully, given the apparent engagement of India's politicians and diplomats in Nepal's political development, the majority of the Gujral doctrine's precepts are thought to have been compromised in terms of relations between India and Nepal. The current situation was equally caused by the political leadership of Nepal. Now, let me explain diplomats' involvement in internal politics. Should diplomats get involved in the domestic affairs of their host nation? It's a crucial question. This question has a straightforward response: no. Are any examples of diplomats being involved in internal politics of Nepal? I will take some time to illustrate these kinds of incidents for you. Foreign Secretary in favor of regime change, Shyam Saran served as Foreign Secretary for the Government of India. Before taking the role of Foreign Secretary, he was India's ambassador to Nepal between 2002 to 2004. High-ranking army officers and former ambassadors claimed that his role in Nepal went above and beyond what was expected of a diplomat. According to a previous Nepalese ambassador who declined to be named, it seemed like he arrived in Nepal with a preoccupied mindset rather than enhancing bilateral relations. In his book, How India Sees the World, Kautilya to the 21st Century, he has allocated a chapter, India and Nepal, a relationship of paradox. Nepal was experiencing serious political unrest in October 2002 when he arrived. All around the nation, the Maoist insurgency was growing. He has admitted in the book that they started quietly responding to the Maoist commanders' perceptions. He has written in the book that he soon discovered that King Gyanendra was in secret communication with the Maoist. He perhaps did not want the Maoist conflict to be resolved internally in Nepal. As a matter of fact, he started more engagements with political parties in Nepal. It is important to note his statement that has been mentioned in the book. I quote, "The political leaders I engaged with were nearly schizophrenic in their dealings with India, seeking favors and political intervention on their behalf in private, but criticizing India for meddling in their affairs in public." Why did he still interact with these leaders even after learning of their dual characteristics? Saran has confirmed in his book that the 12-point agreement signed between the two sides was facilitated by their Indian agencies. He writes, I quote, "Though this was not formally acknowledged, India's role as guarantor for the implementation of the accord was implicit." Unquote. Dr. Karan Singh and Shyam Saran, the Prime Minister's special envoy, arrived together. They visited on April 19 and 20, 2006, during the time King Gyanendra had taken absolute power. Some observers claim that Saran's meeting with leaders of political parties was confrontational since he refused to make any concession to the king. In addition, he took it a step further. It is hard to accept that he, in a sense, instructed General Pyarjang Thapa, the chief of the Royal Nepal Army, that, I quote what he said, "I said somewhat provocatively that he had a choice to be the chief of the Royal Army or the chief of Nepal's army," unquote, Saran said in his book. Multi-party democracy and constitutional monarchy were the two tenets he opposed. In order to publicly break with their previous slogan of supporting the dual values of multi-party democracy and constitutional monarchy, he requested permission from Pranab Mukherjee, Minister of External Affairs, to hold a televised press conference. Saran for the rights, I quote, "I also conveyed to Pranab Mukherjee that what I was saying would be at variance with a statement the Prime Minister had made the same day in Berlin to the Indian journalist." In his book, Saran states, "Pranab Mukherjee asked me to go ahead and do whatever was necessary to defuse the situation in Nepal and safeguard India's interest," unquote. Finally, it naturally begs the question, was it in India's best interest to abolish the monarchy in Nepal? Why, like Gandhari in Mahabharata, did political leadership of India turn a blind eye when bureaucracy interfered with Nepal-India relations? With this, let me conclude this episode. We are planning to amend the existing format of Diplomatic Eye. I will come up with a modified version soon. Please stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching me. Namaskar.